Several states in major anticipation of 2027 election erupts, pressure mounts on the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC from experts and notable bodies. Chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Foreign Affairs, Wale Oke, has asked INEC to address the confusion that voters always confront while casting their votes owing to overcrowding of ballot papers. Calls are also mounting to stop the president from appointing the chairman, commissioners and other presiding officers to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. This took center stage in Abuja on Monday as the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room issued its comprehensive credibility threshold for Nigeria's 2027 general elections.
Meanwhile, experts are still calling INEC out on its electoral reforms, stating that it implemented flawed electoral reforms as called for immediate electronic upload of results and the adoption of single-day elections nationwide. Now, with elections scheduled in key constituencies like Plateau North, Ebonyi South, and Akure North and South, the stakes are very high. Well, joining us to discuss this concerns and its impact on Nigeria's electoral process is the former chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, Chief Peter Ameh. Thank you so much, Mr. Peter, for being here. Let's look at this very closely. These calls have come not just today, but it's been for a very long time where they've talked about reforms, not just from INEC, but of course the processes of every single election. Can you share with us when we think these reforms would actually come through and would actually work, especially for the benefit of the electorate?
For me, for someone who has started with the commission, the National Electoral Commission, and its committees, to work and look at how to make sure that our election truly represents the true wishes of our people. I can tell you that we have really improved in our electoral processes. But whatever INEC is doing is to try to cause confusion and set us back, like 10 years backward, because our electoral process started improving when the technology was introduced into it by 2015 by Goodluck Jonathan. What we are looking at is Section 65. If you look at Section 65, it's not something that INEC even should be the promoter of such agenda, because what should be more of interest to us is that we should not have more post-election litigations. We should be able to have our elections, conducted and then let the vote count and let the vote represent those who voted, the numbers who voted and their interest, what they voted for. So if INEC is getting ready to say he wants to be able to have a review of an election 7 days after it has been conducted, it showed the flawed process in our electoral system is a draconian law that should not be allowed, because giving INEC quasi-semi-judicial power to review an election after it has been conducted is taking away the authority of the electorate to determine their own future. So, that will not be good to take such election to the national headquarters of INEC, where determination will be made by very few people. So it is key that INEC concentrate more, removing that provision, and concentrate more on saying that our elections truly start at the polling, vote are counted at the polling unit, cast at the polling unit, and the results are announced at the polling unit, and that is the end of it. Because every other thing you are doing is just a showman. Because going to coalition center, these are all the center for rigging and manipulation that has been created in our electoral system. For us to have, we have a dual coalition system, we have a dual accreditation system, which is very beautiful. What we should have now is to have election count. The vote should count. Those who vote, one vote should be one vote. There should not be extra backhand by the returning officer to do such. And any attempt, what INEC should concentrate also is that when a returning officer manipulates the electoral process, that process should be criminalized so that returning officer will serve jail term. And that is the Justice Way Electoral Report Panel. And also concentrate in the fact that we must remove the appointing authority from the president, who is also a participant. A referee cannot be a referee in the match he's going to play in, because he's appointing everybody, appointing the resident electoral commissioner, appointing national electoral commissioner, and then appoint the chairman of the commission. So we must also remove that from there, because there are several reports over the years. Justice Lemu electoral violence report in 2011, Justice Way's electoral report 2008, Senator Undermine report in 2015. So these are a lot of reports that have actually told the line that it should be. So Section 65 is an aberration to what an electoral process should be like. It should not, it's the risks of all the flawed definitions of our elections. And then you want to be able to have election that the cost of election should be reduced. If you want to reduce the cost of election, it's a simple thing. You conduct all your election in one day. And if you conduct the election, it will stop voter apathy, it will stop voter fatigue, and it will reduce the cost, the billions on billions that Nigerians are investing in just conducting the election in 2 days. So, and for you to do that, it's not a difficult thing. They have to look at the section 132 subsection 2, section 178 subsection 2, section 64 subsection 1, and section 105 subsection 1. If you combine this, if you review these combined sections of the Constitution, you will find out that we can be able to conduct our election in one day, and it will increase voter participation, because voter turnout in the second leg of the election, where you have the state and governorship election, are usually very low. Why? Because the outcome of the presidential election is already known, so there's no momentum. People don't get interested. People are already, disinterested in the process of going to conduct vote 2 weeks after. You can imagine, you already know the result of the presidential election, the National Assembly election, then 2 weeks after you prepare to go and vote. People will be discouraged, people will be disillusioned by the outcome. So if we have all our elections in one day, which is just 5 positions, it's not, we have 3 in one day, we have 2 in another day, which is not good for the voter or the electorate, as we call it. So it is necessary that I look at all these issues, come together, streamline it, and I should be courageous to know that even Justice Ilemu electoral report has said that INEC is overburdened. If INEC is overburdened, INEC should be should be onboarding in a way that it was created into different parastatal. And that is a report everywhere you go in the world. Even Sierra here, they have.
Yeah, I want to interrupt because honestly, in your response, there's several areas that you've talked about. You've talked about the Section 65 of the Electoral Act. You've spoken about the cost of running elections. You've talked about taking away the power to appoint INEC officials from the president. But I just want to, for the benefit of our viewers, read Section 65 of the Act. It empowers INEC to, within 7 days, review election results where the returning officer had made an illegal return under duress. The section provides that 1, the decision of the returning officer shall be final on any question arising from or relating to A, unmarked ballot paper, B, rejected ballot paper, and C, declaration of scores of candidates and the return of a candidate, provided that the Commission shall have the power within 7 days to review the declaration and return where the Commission determines that the said declaration and return was not made voluntarily or was made contrary to the provisions of the law, regulations, guidelines, and manual for the election. And I want to quickly read subsection 2, which says, a decision of the returning officer under subsection 1 may be reviewed by an election tribunal or court of competent jurisdiction in an election petition proceedings under this act. Now, your response to this, you've talked about how this is an intentional way to manipulate justice. I mean, not the exact words you said, but I believe that that's the underlying message you're trying to pass across. And you're saying that our focus should be instead to ensure that results are uploaded in real time. What would you say are some of the hiccups that have ensured that we do not have the results uploaded in real time? And what structures do we need to put in place to achieve this?
Apart from the third hand of those in INEC who manipulate the system, I think because the previous directors, which I know, we always tell you privately that we have one of the best technology that can, aid us to, successfully upload this document, the PDF, which is called from ECA to the INEC portal. We have this document, but this glitch happened, and Nigerians, the National Assembly not taking its job seriously, could not call for an oversight function so that Nigerians can properly investigate an independent body set up to investigate what the glitch was. Because if you don't diagnose the situation properly, those who were responsible for the one that happened in 2023 will still be attempting to do further damage. So what the INEC should do, what we should do now is to make it mandatory that from ECA at the polling unit, because naturally, if you look at what happened in Ghana, the vice president, I was in a conference where the vice president who contested against the incumbent president today said that before the end of the election, his party was already aware of the coalition because the forms of the polling unit that was uploaded. So Nigerians will be abreast with what is going on. Party agents and party control centers will also be abreast with what is going on. Transparency is the key to efficiency, is the key for things to be done right. If there's no transparency, if there's no accountability, and if there's no integrity in the process, that means we will also have problems. Because there's no law. We can't be making buffer laws. You know, there's a tribunal that's supposed to adjudicate on this issue. There's also INEC that will also give itself a semi-judicial quasi-power authority that will also still look at it and then review. So these are unnecessary. What we need, INEC knows we need, every Nigerian knows we need, is about to count at that particular polling unit. We don't even need coalition centers. To be sincerely, coalition center we will need maybe will be a centralized point, maybe at the state. But this world, local government and state coalition center are manipulation grounds for turning election result. So what INEC should do, and every interested Nigerian should continue to pressure INEC to do, is to remove Section 65. What they should concentrate on is to concentrate on the laws that empowers INEC that authorize INEC to upload that from ECA A, because there's from ECA A, there's from ECA B, which is one that will fill all the other results, to upload it at the polling unit to IRF. I was in Kogi during the last election. The INEC officials were struggling. They refused because they had an arrangement. So this thing happens. So if you can upload results in over 176,000 polling units to IRF data in a PDF format, we will be secure. Our election will truly be up to standard, and it will defend the vote of the people. Because if you look at the investigative report by BBC in Rivers State, by Premium Times, they have not been able to change the result from IRF today because it has become public data. It will damage the reputation of the organization if they attempt to remove those results that are still on IRF as regards the electoral outcome in Rivers State. Even despite all the report, they can't remove it. So it is a short banker approach to stopping the manipulation in our system, the rigging. But if you follow this flawed process, it will lead to authorizing very few people who are not even trained in legal profession, who might be have been appointed by political affiliation or interest in party in our politics. Because today we have people, sincerely, who are not non-partisan, as it was established in the Constitution as a criteria to appoint INEC officials. So we must put our eyes on the ball. Election actually occurs at the polling unit. We have what we call dual accreditation process, where you have to use the manual and the electronic to thumbprint and then look at the register to see if your name appears. That is the accreditation, which is dual. And then you have a voting process, which also represent that or give you that opportunity to put in your ballot, and then it is uploaded. That's manual, the double accreditation and double collation process. So they will collect the result manually and then also collect the result electronically. So we should also make that law strong to make sure that electronic part uploading result become a criminal offense, so that those who will do this will know that they will face the wrath of the law. But we must also strengthen it to give parties stronger participation, to be able to see that these results are uploaded at the polling unit. Because we cannot have a credible society, we can't have development if people only can waggle their way into power by manipulating electoral results.
Now, Chief Ameh, looking at the fact that we have by-elections in different parts of the country coming soon, are there any low-hanging fruits? What can be done by INEC in the immediate to remedy some of the problems that you've highlighted in the course of our discussion? Or is it too late? Are we going into the next cycle of elections with the baggage that they have behind from the last elections?
Yeah, there will be some baggage, and because this will be a rushed election within they were given within 1 month, these elections will be conducted and everything will be over. But we need to be able to train some of these ad hoc staff and train them in a way, and they also have to look at the situation of what is happening today. The RAPTEX, you know, and all the other ad hoc staff they do. Most times, these forms are given to politicians with resources who are contesting to fill and put those they want to. These are verifiable claims. So at the end of the day, this also undermines the integrity of the electoral process, and they must be able to have develop an in-house model that will probably look at the credentials, the character of those who represent them as ad hoc staff, at the coalition level, so that it won't be a trade by barter arrangement. You give me money, I try to look for vote for you when there's no vote. So these are problems that we have. But by and large, I've said from 2003, where I've been part of the process. Like I've been national secretary of IPAC, national chairman of IPAC 4 times. So I've been part of the discussion to deepen an electoral system for a very long time. And I see that by 2003, our elections have continued to improve from 2015. But the issue is that there's this gap is created. As long as that gap in the polling unit exists, that we have to depend on the World Coalition Center, where you start to see figures being changed. From the back door, where you see security officials will stop other parties from getting inside before it happens in Edo. Even the former governor have to try to go, and that was when you find out all the manipulation was going on. Then you have a court process that are also, every time you make a new law, they will create another loophole. So we need to end our elections at the polling unit, as every other country, most smaller countries and countries that are now bigger than us in Africa are doing. So our election must end at the voting polling unit. Elections, if you look at the American system, everywhere in the world, if our American system, you have to litigate as the election is going in each of the polling units. You have to litigate that election. If you find any infraction, you immediately file at any of the court close to you. There are no tribunals there. You have to be litigating every issue at their cost. So we must have a spontaneous action plan that will be able to arrest those things that happen, especially at the polling unit. It is the polling unit that ends every election. If you look at all the polling results across Nigeria, if you really get them, you find that the results are clean, perfect, because they are plain eyes. There are electorate that are there who have voted for their parties along party lines or along Nigerian interest, and you have party agents at that polling unit that are already interested to see the result, who have been given a copy of the result. So you now have these details that are there. So election copies, especially at the polling, is very clean. It is when it moves on that journey to Babylon, going to Coalition Center, that you find out that all these actors who are always would only believe that what they have is the protection of those in power, not the protection of the authority given to them by those who are electorate, who are Nigerians, who are the citizens. So this is the problem we have, that we have election that is not only, the process is not only flawed by INEC participation, it is flawed by even the state, those representing the interests of the state actors, security agencies who shadow this coalition center, who will deprive coalition agent and agent from other political party
Chief Ameh,
to entering, delay the process.
Right, Chief Ameh, you've spoken about what we need to do, the low-hanging fruits in terms of where the challenge is. But let's look at another suggestion that you made with regards to costs. You're suggesting that all the elections be held in a single day. With what we have right now, yes, it's very expensive, and I completely understand the perspective of running the elections in a day to save costs. Even with the by-elections we keep having, that's another angle of conversation to look at with all these politicians who get into positions where people voted them in, and midway decide to go for what is perceived to be a higher office, and then thereby costing us much money to be able to conduct by-elections. But that's another conversation for another day. But the current situation we have, even with the fact that we do the election in a number of days, we've still not been able to perfect it. We have a data challenge. We have a number of challenges that mar our election as is. If they were to go by your suggestion, what is the guarantee that that's, one day of conducting the elections will be enough and we won't have the same complications, even more than we already currently have?
In staggered elections, which you call staggered elections, are a fertile ground for electoral manipulation, because there's this power of concentration by state actors on one location. If you have a senatorial election in one place now, you find out that you can have all the authority of those who want to suppress the will of the people. They can mobilize effectively to that location. If you have governorship election, look, we have examples. They are not far away from us. If you look at how almost they will tell you 150,000, 20,000 security agents was mobilized to Edo. So these are our challenges. That we must look at the law. The court made mistakes in the first place to start the staggering of our election and start to create these elections that are not in the general interest of our people. Because if you look at what the court eventually cured, before, when the judgment was first given, was that you have to come back and start afresh. But now it is to continue from whoever was removed from office, especially for the executive. We must also do that for the legislative arm, so that whoever has been, if you are serving 2 years, you are removed, whoever comes, you just complete that period, like it's happening today. So we cannot continue a situation where we have this target election is a fertile ground for electoral manipulation and electoral voter suppression. So we must consolidate all our election. Whatever law we need to review, we should review them. And I've seen statement from Goodluck Jonathan where he spoke extensively against, this staggered election, and because it's it is not happening anywhere really, or anywhere in the world apart from Nigeria, that you find out and the cost of conducting this election is telling our pulse, is telling our nation. This is a timetable that came out today for this by-election and run was already to come out since December last year. But the INEC, the commission was waiting for resources approval because the commission has approval direct light charge authority to get their money from direct light charge through the National Assembly. So they've been waiting for National Assembly to approve money for over close to a year. So this is the challenges of staggering election. It is so cost intensive. It is it gives it's risks of voter apathy, because people are not really interested in all the small. So the small few who can be mobilized by this party to vote, who maybe mainly party members or people who are sympathizers with those such party, will go and vote any candidate that might not vote generally interested people. We must sustain the energy, the interest of our people by putting elections in one day. The laws are not difficult. The laws I have mentioned, it's not something I've always studied this law and I know what it is. If you look at section 132, subsection 2, and that's section 105, subsection 1. These are areas that you can really put together, and you look at them, and then you move to section 64, subsection 1, and section 178, subsection 2. Put them together, review them properly, and then make sure that elections are conducted in one day, so that the energy, the interest is pumped, adrenaline is pumped into that one day election. Sometimes people travel from Lagos to Benin, people travel from Abuja to Makurdi to go and vote on election day, and they take leave because people want to vote in their community where those that will elect will bring positive direct development to their people, so they travel. So are you expecting somebody to travel this week and 2 weeks later the person is traveling again? So these are the things that bring the loopholes in voter, that increase the level of voter apathy in our election, that make people to be disinterested in the electoral process, and then they create a lot of fatigue. So what we need is the concerted effort of the Election Commission, to the election management body, to see on the part of Nigerians, and then remove all these red tapes, all these bottlenecks that are militating against the proper conduct and transparent process of election. If election is transparent, if the process is credible, if it is free and fair, it will definitely have integrity. And if the integrity test is strong, you will see, you will see that Nigerians are so happy. You can't have people conducting election after the result of the election is announced. 80% of the country is sad. Where is it done? 80%. You can walk around, you'll see people with sad faces that the election. So people think of data. I'm a data science. People talk of data. What about data? What about the emotions of the people? You can also read that and see that people are always more sad after the conduct of election than happy. The energy is so strong a day before the election, but day after election, you find everybody just going about the lost interest of the country. The easiest way for Nigerians to commitment and lose interest in this country is the fact that they go to election and don't believe the process and the vote will count.
Okay. Well, I think we've covered this conversation, looking at some of the angles in which you've raised some very, very salient points. But let's be hopeful that this complete reform will be done, especially maybe before the 2027 elections, because we do know that a lot of persons are talking about it. They're pushing for a complete electoral reform. We want to say thank you so much for talking to us and taking time out to be here this morning on Breakfast Central. Thank you.